Spontaneous speaking video 55. Alright, today what I wanted to talk to you guys about is a concept that, once again, I've been thinking about as I observed my own behavior and how things pretty much play out with other people. And pretty much, this concept is ironically a concept that has already been thought up, which I'm sure many concepts have already been thought up. But this one, it wasn't until after I had already planned on making a video that I was enlightened to the idea or the fact that this is actually the 21st law of the laws of power by Robert Greene. And for those of you who've heard that book or haven't heard of that book, it's a really good book. You can find a lot of the content on YouTube. I'm yet to read the whole book yet, but it's definitely now on my list now that I've been enlightened to it. But pretty much, like I said, it's by Robert Greene, and it's the 48 Laws of Power. My friend Johannes, he tweeted about it one time. You'll probably see me retweet him often for those of you who follow me on Twitter. And he saw that I tweeted the other day. Maybe I should just say it verbatim because I like doing that. So, pretty much what I said was, I've come to realize that it's not always a bad thing when people underestimate and think little of you. In fact, oftentimes it gives you an advantage and ability to maneuver more freely the way you would like. And then Johannes said, Robert Greene talks about it in 48 Laws of Power, Law 21. Always seem dumber than your mark. You should look it up. And I remembered him talking about the 48 Laws of Power before, and I had watched a video or two about it, but I didn't go through, well, I think it breezed through all 48, and so I didn't really focus, but pretty much what made me think, I say pretty much a lot, what made me think about this law is a lot of things, but once upon a time, just about maybe a few weeks ago actually, or actually it wasn't a few weeks ago, it was late December. I was here at work, library, and let me tell you about how I'm kind of like at the library. So here you guys might see me as someone who's very energetic and, always talking very, whatever. And you might not be able to comprehend the fact that, oh, Denzel can actually sit down and be quiet or something like that. Well, it's true, I can. And I actually do that a lot at my job. There's a lot of people who work here. They're all, around my age and everything. I don't dislike them, but it's just, I don't know, I'm still trying to observe how how I interact with them or why I don't interact with them as much. I think it's because I value one-on-one conversations more often. And I like substance. If you just come to me and you're like, oh, how was your break and stuff like that, I'm going to be like, oh, it was good. How was yours? And I'm going to try and put the attention on you because I don't feel like exerting energy to talk about my break, especially if, you don't really care as much. So, yeah, that's kind of how I am at my job. If people were perceive me, honestly, a few of them thought that I was introverted. So whenever I tell them, because they all know I'm into Myers-Briggs, and whenever I tell them that oh yeah, I'm an ENFJ, they're like, you're an extrovert? Because I don't really engage with everyone. But the funny thing is, since I work customer service, then they see how kind I am to the people who come to my desk. Literally, there was one time where someone came to me for counseling. I don't even know the girl. I probably wouldn't even recognize her if I saw her around. But she came to my desk, and I talked to her for about 10 minutes and even prayed for her. And, that's just the type of person I am. So everyone at my job, even though they may not think of me as an extrovert or talkative, they know me as someone who's very, very kind to others. And I think that's the trademark that they've kind of placed on me, that Denzel's very, very nice. So that being said, my supervisor, One day they were all talking about, and once again, once it happens so often that everybody else is having conversations, and I'm just, at my desk, reading articles online or, responding to you guys' YouTube comments, stuff like that. And they started talking about the Harry Potter houses. And for those of you who don't know, there's about four of them. And pretty much from what I can gather, it seems that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that Gryffindor are the types of people who are like rule followers and stuff like that. Then you have Slytherin, who are those who are very like strategic and manipulative and do anything in their power even if it's unethical to get what they want from what I perceive. And then there's like they're just like really like hard go-getters. Then there's Ravenclaw, which seem to be like the very, very smart, intellectual, observant type of people. And then there is Hufflepuff, which are pretty much like very concerned with being nice to other people and like showing manners and etc etc etc. I know a lot of you are probably relating this now to type. It happened to me as well, but I'm not really like a huge Harry Potter fanatic. I've watched all the movies as of last summer, just because I wanted to at least know like what people were talking about. But I'm not like as deep into it, so I don't really know like all of the content. And I took the test before I even watched the movies, but then since then I've taken two more tests. They were talking about the Harry Potter house at Harry Potter houses amongst themselves, and somehow they had like asked me, "Hey Denzel, what are you?" So I turned around and I'm like, "Oh, last time I took a test, it said that I've only taken it once, but the last time I took the test, it said that I was like somewhere between like 70 to 80% Ravenclaw, and then the rest of the percentage was Hufflepuff, and it was pretty much saying that like you're really smart and intellectual and blah blah blah, but you are just the right amount of kindness to not intimidate people and like scare them off or something like that." To me, honestly, I found that to be very accurate. And I was like, oh wow. And it was interesting because, I don't really, like I said, I don't know much about this Harry Potter stuff. So when they were asking stuff like, would you rather eat the frog of Nestle, or would you rather go into the Chamber of Secrets and steal and stuff like that, I was just like, B. I didn't really know. But, the stuff that I could understand, and, some of them I actually, like, looked up a little bit so that I can make sure, like, I'm getting, like, accurate results. And, like I said, I did not know what these houses were at the time. But that's what I got. And when I read it, I was like, okay, cool. Well, my supervisor, when I stated that I got Ravenclaw and everything, then she was like, oh, and then I said, like, the rest of the percentage was Hufflepuff. She's like, oh, you're definitely Hufflepuff. And I was like, I'm not really sure like what exactly Hufflepuff is, but it sounded pretty accurate to me, and it said that I was I was way more Ravenclaw, whatever that is, which sounded accurate to me. She was like, no, trust me, you're Hufflepuff. And I'm like, okay. And then she was like, yeah, you know what? You have to take this test. I don't really know. Like, it wasn't the test I took before, but it was some other test. She was like, yeah, not the BuzzFeed one. You have to take this one. This is the official Harry Potter house test or whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. Had time. My supervisor's giving me permission to do this test at work. So, all right. So I took the test again. This time I got, once again, Ravenclaw as a huge percentage and Hufflepuff as a smaller percentage. And I was like, showed it to her. I'm like, yeah, still Ravenclaw. And she looks at it and she's like, well, you can't really like classify people or something anyway. I'm like, okay. But that fascinated me because I, from that point, knew that she had this perception of me because, after that I was like wondering like why was she so pressed that I was like a Hufflepuff. I wonder what Hufflepuff is and stuff. So I looked more into it, and like I said, it turns out like they're like the really, really nice people and, very friendly and blah, 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 blah. And I guess what she was insinuating, my supervisor, was that, oh yeah, Denzel's very nice. Like, I see how he interacts with like customers like all the time and everything, and he's too nice to be a Ravenclaw. He's too nice to be smart, intellectual, blah blah blah. Originally, that probably would have upset me, offended me, probably would have like made me inclined to prove her wrong, and like prove myself to her. But I had come to realization, as I said in the tweet, that you know what, sometimes it's good to kind of pretty much have people um, underestimate your abilities. And I've taken up already a lot of time sharing that story, but that's what spontaneous speaking videos are. I didn't think about it, I didn't really plan it, just boom. And now here for the Law 21. So pretty much, like I said, 48 laws of power, and this is Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Robert Greene. And the bullet points that I have for that one are never inadvertently insult a person's intellect. So literally self-explanatory. You never really try to make other people seem inferior to you. Subliminally reassure people that they are more intelligent than you are. Convince them that you are a bit of a moron and you can run rings around them. So if you convince them that you are a bit of a moron or that you don't really have like all of your light bulbs tightly screwed, then you can pretty much like have them in the palm of your hands. The feeling of intellectual superiority you give them will disarm their suspicion muscles. So pretty much like if you if you allow them to feel as if they're superior to you, they're smarter than you, they're more intellectual than you or whatever, they won't have as much of a guard up to you. Pretty much. That's what it's pretty much saying. I say pretty much so much. I'm going to stop. Given how important the idea of intelligence is to most people's vanity, I don't know where that was attached, make people feel they are more sophisticated than you are and their guard will come down. So yeah, these are all self-explanatory, but in essence, what the 21st law is saying is to, in essence, dumb yourself down. Or not even really dumb yourself down, but don't express exactly how intelligent you are. Don't show all that you know. Allow people to misjudge your intelligence. Allow people to have lower expectations of you. In doing so, you will then be able to run rings around them. You will have more control in that relationship because they not only have their guard down so that you could better impress them with smaller things, but at the same time, they're not expecting much from you. And so now you know everything about them pretty much, and they don't really know as much about you. And some of the examples that I had here besides the story I just told is pretty much to tell advantages of being underestimated. Being able to maneuver freely without being watched, kind of like Reddington and Roderick, also to genuinely learn from others. So what I meant by that was that once you put yourself in a position where people are able to kind of like not really expect as much from you, and they don't think of you as highly as you really are, and they underestimate you, you're the underdog, like I said, you have the advantage now. And it's a beautiful thing to have that advantage. I always bring up the show The Blacklist. If you guys don't watch that show yet, you need to start watching it. And pretty much the reason why I'm bringing this up, so let's backtrack real quick. I believe that many other ENFJs, people of my type, and probably other types as well, but I've just seen this a lot with my type, especially being an FE dominant, they underestimate how intelligent we are because we're so nice. I guess that there's this like unspoken notion that if you are very kind to other people, kind-hearted, gentle, warm, spirited, whatever, then there's no way that you can actually be cerebral. And I don't know where we're getting that from. You know, like, if that's because like blondes or something are supposedly ditzy, but yet they're nice. Like, I don't know. But I think that a lot of ENFJs, especially, and like I said, it could be other types as well. But this is just what I've like seen with the ENFJs. I believe that we do this thing called FE masking, where we live so much in our FE, or we exemplify so much of our FE that people don't get to see our NI. And sorry for those of you who aren't really like as into MBTI and don't really understand like the vernacular that I'm using. In essence, what I'm saying is that people who are similar to me, who think similarly to me, and make decisions similarly to me, um, they're usually very concerned with like manners and being kind to other people, being respectful, being appropriate, yada yada yada. And since we live in a society that somehow believes that such people are dim-witted, then because we express so much of that, then people tend to think less of our actual intelligence. And I think that this is something that's prominent for our type, and that's probably why like a lot of people like they don't seem to expect as much from us, and they compare us to like other types. Oftentimes they don't always think of us as like all that smart or insightful or intuitive or whatever the case may be. And like I said, that could have like potentially upset me in the past, but now I see that there's advantages to it. And even from watching shows like The Blacklist, I see that Raymond Reddington does this a lot. He plays so dumb with the people that he's like manipulating that they don't expect certain things from him. They don't expect him to be able to do certain things. They let their guard down and he just plays their life. he just does what he has to do, and they're like, "Oh shoot." And they seem to always continue to underestimate Reddington because he's such a nice gentleman, and he's so this and he's so that, and he's like ha 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 ha, and he's just like this. If I didn't mention, he's an ENFJ as well. So because of how nice he is and because of how he laughs and everything, you'd think that he's not really thinking, because it just seems like he's just like this guy who's always joking around, not knowing that in the back of his mind, this dude has a whole contingency plan behind his strategic plan that's probably gonna work. And I think that I relate very heavily to that. And in allowing myself to be perceived by others as not as cerebral or not as intelligent or whatever, then it gives me the upper hand. It also allows me, like right now, I'm at a position where I can better impress my supervisor if I wanted to, by small things, like things that aren't even like all that heady, or all that, intellectual, whatever. Now, if I state them, then she'll be like, "Oh wow, like you're really smart, or you're really this. I wouldn't expect that from you, whatever." And it's like, to me, I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like clearly you don't see my YouTube channel, we don't talk much. I don't know, because this is the type of stuff that I talk about all the time. But I'll just allow her to think that, like, oh, give me the credit for whatever. And the last thing that I wanted to say was Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Roderick, there was a page in a book, I think it was the first book, and I just remember him like talking to his brother, and he was pretty much like explaining this sort of to him, and he said that he pretty much gave the notion that it's best to allow people to expect less from you, so that when you do something, even if it's small, then they'll be impressed and they'll give you a lot of credit for it. Now take this lightly. Don't take it and just run off with it. But one example that he gave was, he was laying on the couch kind of like this, and his parents were like leaving somewhere, and they were like, "Roderick, we expect you to pick up your shoes and put it in the garage or something by the time that we get back." And he was like, "Ugh." And his parents like thinking like, yeah, he's not going to do it. They returned back home. Roderick is still sitting in the exact same position, same spot, but the spot was clean. Like his shoes were like in the garage and everything, and they were like, "Whoa!" And that's an extreme example, but it works. It's true. My younger sister, she once told me, and I'm kind of like exposing her right now, but she told me like how she can cook, and she can do this, and she was like, yeah, I can do this and I can do that, but I just choose not to let people know. She's an INFP, by the way. And I was like, really? Wait, why not? She was like, because if I let people know that, like, if I let grandma know that I can cook, she's gonna want me to cook all the time. If I let Francois, our youth pastor, know that I can lead Bible study, then he's gonna want me to lead Bible study all the time. So I'd rather just keep my skills to myself, and then I'll just, do it here and there and surprise them. I'm like, wow, that's really smart. That's really intelligent of her, in my opinion. And I think that that's something that we could all learn from. Now, don't do this in a manipulative manner. Well, actually, no. I think it's impossible not to do this in a manipulative manner. But what I mean by this is there's different types of manipulation. There's manipulation that allows people to get the short end of the stick, so you're kind of like deceiving them in an ill-mannered way. Don't do that. Don't use this ability to abuse it. Don't use it in a way that's going to like kind of like destroy a relationship or destroy a person or whatever the case, cause any type of harm. Rather, just use it to your own advantage to get a one up pretty much if need be. And I'll leave that up to you guys' own discretion. I've already run this video kind of long. I apologize for that. But for those of you who have been watching, hopefully this makes sense. What I'm saying, in essence, is that allow people to expect less from you sometimes. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes when people are able to expect less from you, then you are able to do less and gain more. I hope that makes sense to you. It made sense to me. If you don't understand, then comments and I'll clarify a little bit more over there. But I think that 23 minutes or 22 minutes, wherever, 20 minutes is enough for a spontaneous speaking video. Thanks for rocking with me. Comment your thoughts and make sure to check out the video links that I'll be posting throughout this video. And done.